Hey guys, so I just wanted to touch on a few more things briefly. You know how I discussed in other videos that I'm better off in my life right now than I was a few years ago. And one of those main reasons is because I cut off like all of my adoptive family. My adoptive mom is dead, but I don't talk to the rest of my family. I cut them out of my life completely, and they will never come back into my life because I feel like all of the abuse and the trauma and the shit that they put me through, like, I just don't want people like that around me. I don't need to see people like that. I'm better off with my life the way it is now. Like, just kind of staying to myself, and I'm moving to New York in a couple months after saving up my money. And even though I'm going to be staying in probably a homeless shelter, I'm going to try to vlog that experience as well when I'm getting on the airplane and at the airport and all that. Hopefully my friends can drive me to the airport to go to New York, because this airport is like a straight shot. You can fly from there to New York straight off. You don't have to get on another connecting flight to New York. It's going to be straight shot from there. So I'm really hoping and excited, but yeah, just cutting your family out of your life a lot of times is the healthiest option. And I'm 30 years old. I'll be 31 next year. Even though a lot of people say that I look younger than I do, or than my actual age, excuse me, is because, hold on one second. Oh. I had to close my window because people outside are being really loud. But yeah, I'm 30 years old, and I cut my adoptive family out of my life years ago. And I just said, fuck it. I don't need people who have done those types of shit, done that types of shit around me. That those people are actually monsters. They tried to make it seem like I belong in jail because I stood up for myself and I exposed them, like my adoptive dad and his biological son, for raping me and abusing me in many ways, just like my adoptive mom abused me, just not sexually. That's the only type of way she didn't abuse me was sexually. But just because I exposed my adoptive dad and brother for raping me as a child to their church, his biological son on my birthday I'd say a year ago, not even a few years ago, a year ago, on my birthday, had the nerve to yell and scream at me in the middle of the sidewalk that I belong in jail or an institution or a homeless shelter for the rest of my life because I'm just trying to get attention. We didn't rape you. You're a scam artist. You're a bitch and a loser. You don't belong here. You're not welcome here. We didn't rape you. Just like yelling and screaming at me at the top of his lungs on the sidewalk when I was still homeless in a shelter in Madison on my birthday, abusing me and yelling as loud as he could so that his neighbors and other people could turn around and look at me outside of their windows. He made me feel so bad that day that the cops had to escort me back to the homeless shelter that I was staying at so that I didn't try to commit suicide again. That's how bad it was. Because I've had other breakdowns before. I've had episodes where I've had to stay months at psychiatric units to prevent myself from committing suicide, like all these suicide attempts that I was having. And I was also struggling with self-harm. I was struggling with an eating disorder for many years that nobody knows about. I was struggling with body dysmorphia. I was struggling with a lot of different things, especially as an adopted Black kid, being adopted into a white family that abused me and neglected me on so many levels that they are the ones that actually should be persecuted for it. You know, he was screaming and yelling at me that day that I belong in jail because I'm a scam artist, and I should have never told his church family that him and his dad raped me as a child because I belong in jail. Like, no, you motherfuckers belong in jail. You abused me emotionally, verbally, physically, sexually, spiritually. And you even abused me when it came to food, making me eat out of the garbage, making me eat maggots, making me use my trash can as a toilet as a child. Horrible forms of neglect that they should have gone to jail for their damn selves, and maybe even prison, especially when it comes to the rape part. Because if they don't care about a child getting verbally and emotionally abused with all of the horrible things they used to say to me and all the horrible things they used to do to me, because not only did they beat me, but they used to use the bathroom on me. They used to poop on me. They used to pee on me. They used to beat me to the point where I would leave trails of blood as a child, running away from my adoptive mom and dad and older siblings who were also just as abusive. Trails of blood. They would beat me so fucking badly. Upon using the bathroom on me, using me as a toilet, extreme forms of abuse, because they adopted a Black child and they made it like look like they were such good people adopting Black children. You know, I have 2 other Black adopted siblings that I don't talk to anymore for obvious reasons. They were also abusive and they're older than me, and they think that they're the only people on planet Earth who have gone through anything at times, especially the little narcissistic rants that my other older Black sister went on. Like, I was diagnosed with CPTSD, depression, anxiety, long before she ever was. I went through a lot more than she had to go through, even as an older sibling. Because at least she had fucking friends growing up. I didn't have any fucking friends. I didn't have anybody to go to. I sat at lunch alone. I got bullied. I went through all of this shit, no family support, homelessness, trafficking, being a trafficking survivor. And I have a lot of memories attached to being a sex trafficking survivor and as a woman that are very traumatic that I won't get into on this YouTube channel because it's just, yeah. And then there are parts of my trauma, it's called disassociating, that are a little bit hazy. And that does happen to people who have survived a lot of trauma. There are parts of your trauma that will be hazy and hard to recollect and hard to bring back up unless you do EMDR therapy, which is a form of therapy that brings up that past trauma. I haven't been to EMDR in years. But through all of the shit that I had to go through, the self-harm, the eating disorders, the suicide attempts, everything that I went through with body dysmorphia, being called a boy when I was growing up, when I had hair like this, even when I had my afros, being accused of looking like a boy, people misgendering me, people bullying me about being poor growing up, about being Black, about the way that I look. So many things that I was harassed and made to feel horrible about. And there were even bullies that were saying that I should kill myself. They went around all the girls and boys in my class said that I should kill myself. And this was in elementary school. This wasn't in middle school. This wasn't in high school. This was in elementary school when the bullying started at a very young age. Telling little me as a little girl to kill myself. And the first time I ever felt suicidal, I was 13 years old? I went home, told my adoptive parents, and they didn't give a fuck. I've been in and out of psychiatric units for years because of a lot of this shit. I've had a lot of psychiatric testing. I've had a lot of mental health diagnoses. A lot of shit has happened to me, and people just don't know the fucking half of it. And, you know, like I said in the other video, I am a survivor. I'm no longer a victim, but I don't allow people to decide what my story is, and I don't allow people to tell me what I have or haven't been through, especially at 30 years old. So I'm only talking about a lot of this stuff to let people know you're not alone. And if you have gone through any of the shit that I've gone through, like, you know, you don't have to feel like nobody out there can understand your experiences, you know, and other people don't understand. People deal with trauma differently as well. That's why trauma victims, when certain things happen to them, you could have the same exact thing happen to two people, and they will both handle it differently because people respond differently to trauma for several different reasons. So, and that's what I've learned too, and a lot of people say, you know, especially when it comes to trying to place the blame on rape victims and say, you know, oh, why weren't they crying? Why were they wearing those outfits? Kind of just victim blaming when it comes to rape victims, even when they are children. Talking about what were you wearing that day? What did you say? Like, no. The accountability has to be put on the attacker, the rapist themselves, not the victim, and saying, oh, what were you wearing? How did you antagonize this person? How did you, you know, how old were you? What did you do? You know, saying that, you know, if a victim of rape doesn't cry right away because they're still in shock, kind of like what happens to people after they get into a fucking car crash, how they may not react in certain ways right away, that if they don't automatically cry instantly, that it didn't happen to them. Not fucking true. There are things that people need to read up on as far as trauma is concerned and how people react to trauma in different ways. I have been sexually assaulted several times in my life, and I didn't cry right away every single time. The levels of those sexual assaults, at times I had different ways of trying to get through. I was still in fight or flight mode. Mind you, after something traumatic like that happens to a person, you are still, after the event, in fight or flight mode. You're not worried about anything else except for surviving. So if you don't cry right away, if you don't show the same emotion that people think that you should be showing right away, that is normal, believe it or not. For those who haven't been through that type of thing like I have, personally, you need to read up on it and do your research and really get to know survivors like myself who are saying, you know, psychologically, mentally, after shit like that happens. And I've been in a lot of situations in life where I have been in pure survival mode. You are in that state of mind for a long fucking time. It doesn't take 2 seconds all the time after something traumatic happens for you to fucking cry. Because a lot of shit goes into that psychologically, especially depending on what happened, the level of trauma, all of these different factors play into it that people don't even realize, and some people don't even want to realize because they're so worried about victim blaming and trying to make the person speaking out on their story, no matter how many years it's been since it happened to them, feel like shit and feel like they're just saying shit for attention and they're saying shit for clout rather than listening to them and respecting them as a human being and showing love and compassion for what me and other women who have survived sex trafficking and other traumatic things in our lives have been through. And I just don't, I want people to keep in mind that, within trauma, there are many layers to trauma and how the body responds to it and how it can affect someone years later down the road and all these different factors. There are so many levels to it. And depending on who the person is, I could have turned out a horrible human being. I honestly could have. I could have turned out to be a monster, genuinely a really fucking bad person. But I didn't. I chose to get psychological help. I chose to search for resources when I was 23 years old and I finally escaped my traffickers. I was 16 years old when I got trafficked. 16. I was a little girl. I was a teenager. So I've survived a lot of shit and I'm only talking about that. I'm only discussing this right now because I don't discuss it every day because I don't identify with who I used to be. I don't identify with that person who was a victim and just going throughout every single day of their life in survival mode, because I don't have to live in survival mode anymore. And I'm really grateful for that. Even when I deal with racism, even when I deal with situations where people make me feel uncomfortable sometimes in public when I go outside, I'm not living in survival mode anymore. I'm not doing things purely based off of I need to get through this in order to live through what's happening to me. And I'm grateful I don't have to constantly have that mindset anymore. A mindset that I had ever since I was in elementary school. A little girl, a child. So whatever it is, like I said in the other video, that you're going through right now, as you're looking at me in my eyes, watching this video, you can get through it. I really mean it. Because if I can get through it, you can too. And if I'm strong enough to even be willing to go back to being homeless for a little while so that I can move to a different city and get on my feet and be a little bit more comfortable as far as being around more resources, fuck it. That's what I'm going to do because I know I'm strong enough to handle it. You know what they say, God only gives his strongest battles to his toughest soldiers. I feel like I'm one of those toughest soldiers, to be honest with you, as a Black woman going through the shit that I've gone through. Nobody has any fucking clue because everybody thinks that everybody's life is perfect, right? Black people can't get bullied. Black people can't go through this. Black people can't go through that. And all of it, meanwhile, is lies and manipulation. Black people can get bullied. I was bullied my entire life and I still get bullied. As an adult, I'm 30 years old and I still get bullied. People still accuse me of looking like a boy and they still call me the N-word. They still call me ugly. They still say mean things to me, even as a grown adult. So the fuck do you mean Black people can't get bullied? I've heard that type of shit and it just blows my mind how ignorant some people are and how dumb some of the things that come out of some people's mouths really fucking are. Because they don't think about shit before they say it. They just say it because they think that it's fact. because of something that happened to them as a child. So they figure all Black people must be immune to abuse. All Black people must be immune to pain. That's why they used to fucking do experiments and shit on us when, back in the day, when Black people were just used as human lab rats, where they could do whatever the fuck they wanted to us. Because they thought that we were immune to pain. We couldn't feel anything. We didn't have emotions. We didn't have feelings. We didn't go through certain things that the white community went through. And that is complete and total bullshit. Hopefully most people know that by now. All right. Well, thank you for listening. And please like, subscribe, and share if you haven't already. That helps push my videos out to more people who are interested in what I have to say. And as always, lead with love and compassion, because that's all that matters. All right. See you guys in the next video.